Bedroom Reviews here, and today, you must be thinking, well, is he probably going to talk about Call of Duty Zombies again? Surprisingly, no, but that is in the woodworks. Spoiler alert. I am talking about zombies today, but from a different franchise. And no, it is not from this movie franchise. We know who you are, Mila Jovovich, all fucking teeth. No. We are talking about a game franchise that is dear to me, kind of like Call of Duty Zombies. I have kind of some experience with it. It's kind of more so like middle ground. I have played most of the games. I do have reviews lined up for those games, but I have reviews in the back burner that need to get done before we can tackle the other Resident Evil games. So I know this is kind of out of order. And yes, spoiler alert, it's Resident Evil. I know, shocker.
You don't say!
We need to tackle this game, Resident Evil 9 Requiem.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 9 Requiem came out on the 27th of February of 2026. So, February 27th of this year. The game has been out will be about a month this coming week. The Saturday, to be specific, I do believe. Date will be posted when the 27th of March is. And I figured, what a better way to ring in the last half of March. Kind of a late St. Paddy's Day review, if you will. Which I have plans for holidays reviews and stuff. Won't tell you until those come around, but if you know, you know. This is my review of Resident Evil Requiem, or RE9. Before I start off with the synopsis of this game, I know what you're thinking. Am I going to talk shit about this game like I do with other fuck native statuses? We're looking at you, Cool Cat.
Oh, how I love to paint a picture.
No. I actually thoroughly enjoyed this game. I will say that this game is on par with Resident Evil 4. I don't know if it is as good as Resident Evil 4, but it is definitely on par with being one of the best Resident Evil games. At least in my opinion. So what is the synopsis of this game? Well, you have two protagonists. Grace Ashcroft, which we're going to get to in a second, and Leon S. My dick is motherfucking swinging. I can parry pretty much everything in this fucking game. Not kidding, by the way. Kennedy. How does this game start? Well, we start at the FBI. The director is walking to Grace Ashcroft's desk. And he tells her, I think it's a cubicle. I call it a desk. Might be a cubicle. Correct me if I'm wrong. Grace Ashcroft gets called into the director's office, and the director literally tells her, hey, I need you to go investigate the Rinwood Hotel. Now, why is this place significant to Grace? Well, that's because that's where her mother got killed. Yes, her mother got brutally fucking killed. And, well, she hid something behind a painting. We'll get to that later. The director, and again, I'm going to get to my issues with Grace. I like Grace, don't get me wrong, but there is one issue that I did have with her. So, and I guess I'll get into the issue now. So during this cutscene, the director tells Grace, and I quote, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but can you do this for me? Everything after this point is Grace's fault, and you cannot tell me otherwise. Grace is an amazing character. Not saying she isn't. I'm just saying her cognitive skills in choosing to actually still go, even though she was offered the option not to, kind of made this her fault. Just saying. Hate me in the comments if you want to. Grace gets to Elbridge, I think is what it's called. It'll be here because they pop up the names of the places as you play the game. So I think it's like Elbridge or some shit like that. And you walk to a crime scene. This is the 5th body found, I do believe they say in the game. This has been literally almost a month since I played, so I'm kind of recollecting from memory. So they call Grace out here. Grace introduces herself. She is FBI, an analyst, stuff like that. So she investigates the body. She gets to the Ringwood Hotel. Also, another decent fact, if you bought the digital deluxe edition, I did, spoiler alert, whatever costume you are wearing for Grace will reflect in the cutscenes. And the same for Leon, including the weapon skins. So, cool as fuck. But, back to the story. Grace is investigating the crime scene. She gets to the Ringwood Hotel. And she obviously does investigating. She starts sneaking around. Well, not sneaking around. Basically snooping around, trying to find it. And she gets told to go to room 204. So she goes to room 204, and there's a bunch of pictures of her, and I think her mom, and all that shit, strewn out on the bed. So somebody's watching her, obviously. We get a flashback sequence of 8 years ago, when the events of her mother being killed happen. And reflect, that shit happens. She sticks the thing behind the painting. And then we go back to the present. And Grace hears a noise. She goes to investigate. And it's the police officer that allowed her into the body. Well, things are not going good for this police officer. And, interesting fact about this game, we have smart zombies, which means they react. So you have to do a kind of like a quick time event. Basically, you just hold to escape, but it's essentially a quick time event. You escape, you fight off the zombie. She gets bit. Don't know why she doesn't turn. I think they explain it, that dormant symptoms and all that shit, but she gets bit multiple times in this game, so I mean, I'm not sure, but digress. Semantics. Grace is obviously scarred and terrified and all that shit, because, undead guy. She ends up running into a big, tall, scaly-looking motherfucker named Victor Gideon. We find out more about him later. Now, Victor tells Grace, "You're the one that I've been searching for," and puts on this weird helmet thing, and then basically lumbers towards her. She tries to escape, and then he pretty much just chokes her out and makes her unconscious. Then we get to Leon, my dick is swinging Kennedy. So, Leon has a Porsche. Yes, I think the car is real. Not entirely sure. But it's a Porsche. Porsche and Resident Capcom collaborated for this game. And he arrives in Elbridge. Again, I do believe. And he's like, "Oh, well, Victor Gideon," we find out that Victor Gideon worked for Umbrella, so obviously, Leon's gonna have, the ties to Umbrella. Also, I must need to mention that Leon is infected in this game. Stage 2, between 2 and 3 infection, if I'm not mistaken. Leon starts driving through the city, and he spots Victor, so he stops in the middle of the road. Smart choice, I know. So he stops in the middle of the road, gets out of his car, and sees that Gideon has Grace on her shoulder. He doesn't know that it's Grace just yet, but he does know that there's obviously someone in trouble. So Leon does what Leon does best, trying to save her. Well, Victor Gideon shoots a couple people with some type of T-virus dart, and it turns them, and Leon walks through the city, basically murking everybody in his path, parrying everything, all that shit. And yes, you can parry cars in this game. You can parry just about anything in this game, which is weird, but I digress. Leon's walking through the thing, and then obviously the person that is on the comms tells him that, "Oh, by the way, Rhodes Hill Care Center was purchased by him recently. You might want to go there." So obviously, he goes there. Then we cut back to Grace, who is hanging upside down, getting her blood drawn. And she wakes up, obviously. She breaks the glass and she cuts herself free. Now we get to the tense parts of this game. So, she sneaks around, grabs a lighter, comes back, obviously, gets to the room where she has to be in, and she opens the door, and a zombie pops out. It's dead. Well, she checks the pulse. Don't know why she checks the pulse, but she checks the pulse. And to no one's surprise, it's not alive. And then a hand reaches out for it. And it was at this point where I almost was like, fuck this shit, just go ahead and take me out.
Off to hang myself, off and left.
We meet what the community has dubbed this person Big Mama. Turns around, sniffs you for a minute, and then screams, and you have to GTF the fuck out. Well, you basically play Ring Around the Rosie, you get a screwdriver, fuse to get out, and then Leon and Grace meet for the first time. Leon is not retired. There was some speculation that he was going to be retired and or retiring in this game. Both do not happen, but I digress. Leon and Grace talk. Leon says, I'm DSO. Grace says she's FBI. Leon is wondering why FBI is doing here. And then the gate starts to close. So Leon gives Grace Requiem, which, interesting fact about Requiem, it is based on a real gun. The RSU-12, if I'm not mistaken. It is a breach and clear revolver used by Russian special forces. I digress. So, Grace goes through Rhodes Care Center, she does her thing, and she meets a girl in the safe room basement named Emily. Emily will come back later. Emily is blind, and she reads Braille. We'll get to this in a second. You have to get out of the building by finding star quartz. Star, sun, and moon quartz. And in order to do that, you have to go basically through the east and west wing of the building and play a scavenger hunt. You know, the good old shit from Resident Evil 7 and 8. Well, and basically every other Resident Evil. Well, you have to get an armband to essentially commute through all the places. And one of the puzzles requires Emily. The buttons are in Braille. And a reviewer, I watch Colin's World, go subscribe, review these two reviewers who say, well, I don't understand why Grace couldn't just try a number of combinations to get the right one. She didn't need Emily. Well, the thing about this is that Grace is an FBI analyst, which means she might be dumb for going here, but she's not that dumb not to utilize resources. I know, big shocker. So she obviously rescues Emily and takes Emily to the puzzle, and then you got a holdout mission and all that good jazz. All that jazz. And then Emily, and they get the last star quartz. Emily, she grabs Emily, she runs Emily outside and meets a helicopter pilot. Forget what his name is, he's kind of only in the game for a few minutes, but meet a helicopter pilot. He tells her that, I can fly us out of here. So obviously, Grace takes the opportunity. So Grace does the secondary puzzle thing to get the keys and all that stuff. And she hides from Gideon, who says, oh, well, Grace is the key. I found her. We don't know what she's the key to yet, but we're getting to there. Grace obviously has to escape the lab. She does escape the lab. Because Gideon decides to detonate the lab because he has no need for it anymore. So, escapes the lab, does the thing, self-discrediting, all that jazz, right? Well, interesting tidbit. So you escape, get in the helicopter, they start flying away. Well, as they're trying to take off, a bunch of zombies, because obviously attracted by the sound, start flocking towards the helicopter, and they start trying to break into the helicopter. Well, another one of these reviewers said that, why didn't Grace do anything during this scene? Well, because probably there was and I don't know how many, but I do believe there is 12 to 20 zombies on the helicopter. And Grace, depending on what weapon you have, only has about 8 to 10 bullets in a reserve. And at this point, is probably almost running out of ammo. So, obviously, she couldn't really do nothing. Someone mentioned in the review that she could have stabbed them, but then that requires, that will get to exhaustion, and then you're kind of tired out a lot faster. So, the helicopter crashes, and the dude that flew them dies. Big shocker, Resident Evil, people die. So, we get back to Leon, and now we have to defend Grace and Emily with a sniper rifle while they're trying to get into the chapel. So we obviously defend them. We do our thing. We get into the chapel. And then Leon and Grace meet again. Grace tells Leon, this is Emily, I'm trying to get her out of here. She's not feeling good, whatever. And then a boss decides to want to break in. So Leon's Leon basically was like, oh, thanks for joining the party. And tells Grace to get Emily to the waste treatment plant. By the way, I forgot to mention, during the whole star collecting sequence, Emily gets grabbed by Big Mama. Yeah, it's a whole thing. Didn't mention that section. It's one of my least favorites, but I digress. Leon does his thing, does the boss fight, does all that good shit. And then it goes back to Grace at the waste treatment plant, and they're obviously chased by Big Mama again. So she has to go through the waste treatment plant to essentially get batteries to get Emily to essentially safety, I guess. I might be hitting the cutscenes out of order, but I'm not entirely sure. Moving on. So, Big Mama dies. She ends up turning white and melts. And then Emily turns into a BOW, basically a bioweapon. So Leon comes in and shoots her. And she falls. So we think she's dead. Well, Grace is like, why'd you do that for? And Leon was like, I had no choice. And Grace was like, oh no, I hate you. I could have saved her. And then throws Leon back Requiem. Then we run into the Wesker clone, or the Wesker imitation, Zeno. We don't know what his first name is. We just know his name is Zeno. Well, Gideon and Zeno tell Grace, come with us, so we'll explain to you your destiny. Da da da. So she goes with them. Another what the hell decision, but I guess. She did feel like it was her fault, so I understand. But those are the bad guys, and you still go with them anyway. I don't know. Don't know how you got your job, but moving on. So Leon talks to Sherry. Oh yes, Sherry is the calm person, by the way. It is not Ingrid Hunnigan this time. Leon goes, I gotta go after Grace, so he goes to Raccoon City. Well, he then goes through Raccoon City, basically hops along buildings and shit, does a little parkour and stuff at 49. Some people say that he's 51 in the game, but the game takes place in 2026. So he's 49 because he was born in 77. Leon does his thing, parkour thing, and all that stuff. And then, probably one of the most funniest, but the most ridiculous things ever in Resident Evil history happens. So, Leon finds a bike in one of the BSAA crates. Yes, by the way, they were in the city too. And Leon takes his bike and he rides on the highway. Well, he starts getting chased by dogs. So he obviously kills those dogs. Wolves, dogs, whatever you want to call them. And he's trying to chase after Victor. And I'm not shitting you. This could be something that Fast and Furious partakes if they decided they wanted to make a spinoff based in the zombie apocalypse. Leon wholeheartedly drives a fucking motorcycle up the side of a building. The building is kind of collapsed, so I think he is able to do that. But if it was a real motorcycle and the building was just angled a little bit higher, he wouldn't have been able to get enough distance to clear it, or enough speed or distance to clear it. But it's Leon motherfucking my dick swinging S. Kennedy, so obviously he does the thing, and he clears it, and he starts chasing after Gideon again. Well then, him and Gideon get into a bright bike brawl, and he ends up carving the axe into his gas tank. And then Gideon does his thing, trying to stop Leon, and then Leon pulls the axe out, and the gas starts leaking. So then, they bike joust. Yes, you heard me correctly. They gun bike joust. And Leon wins. Gideon falls off the bike, off the cliff. Leon, I think, has a one-liner.
Should have worn a helmet.
And then bikes off. Don't worry, Gideon's not dead. He comes back later. Leon does his thing, gets to the ARC facility. Yes, I know, Umbrella. Gets to the ARC facility, gets to Raccoon City, the RPD. I know, flashbacks. He gets to the RPD, and he opens it, and he gets flashbacks from the night he showed up in Raccoon City for the first time in 98. So he has his flashbacks, he goes through the RPD, and he overhears Zeno and Grace talking. And Zeno shows Grace why Emily and them were so special, and we play as a clone called Chloe, which I do believe she's a clone. Some people are saying that this is originally Grace, and Grace was born from her DNA, but then we learn later in a different cutscene. I won't spoil it for now, but basically, speculation that it's not a clone, but I do believe it is a clone, so we're just going to assume it's a clone. So, you are playing through the Raccoon City orphanage, you escape, and then Leon busts the party, with Zeno going, "Leon, I was expecting you to show up at this point." Then, Grace, obviously, goes with Zeno and does the thing, and Leon has to fight Mr. X. Yes, the same Mr. X from Resident Evil 2, by the way. And we get a boss fight with him, and we obviously kill him because we're Leon Kennedy. And then we go to the ARC facility. And then we go through the ARC facility, we kill a giant plant, we do all this shit. We end up fighting the Commander, which people are speculating it's Hunk because it's the same voice actor that was Hunk, and he does the same little neck snap move that Hunk does. But there's other people who are speculating that it's from one of the commandos from the Grim Reaper, one of the Grim Reapers from Umbrella Corps. Who knows? But I digress. Leon fights the Commander, possible Hunk, but we don't know. Kills him, and then goes through the rest of the ARC facility. Well, Leon is in Stage 3 at this point. During one of the cutscenes, he says he's in Stage 3, and as you play with Leon, you'll start to get purple haze, and then you're fighting lickers with your hatchet and stuff. Grace, in the meanwhile, is trying to essentially connect with Leon to try to get to the ARC facility, all that good shit. That little flash drive, little floppy disk thing that Grace found behind the plating explains. So Oswald Spencer decided to try to atone for his sins. So he made Elpis. Elpis is, I'll tell you what Elpis is in a second, but Elpis essentially is the key to his lifelong work. Well, Grace is trying to figure out all this shit, and she clicks on a file called Grace, and then we go back to Leon, and Leon gets to the door of the ARC facility, and he's close to death. He's literally just sits on the floor and collapses. So then Grace figures out that she's technically an orphan from the orphanage, Alyssa Ashcroft isn't her mother, Oswald Spencer had Alyssa Ashcroft adopt Grace. So, Grace isn't the key to Elpis or anything. She sees Leon collapsing. She goes back, gets to Leon. Leon goes, I was just resting my eyes. She picks Leon up, and obviously they go into the Ark, where you run into Zeno. So, Leon, my dick is motherfucking swinging Kennedy, decides to try to fight Zeno, but Zeno is under the adverse effects of the T virus, and it's basically doing what Resker does, where he can dodge bullets and shit. Well, Grace is carrying Leon through the thing, and Grace realizes, well, I think I know the password, and Leon goes, I trust your decision. Now we get to, I do believe, the first time Resident Evil has done this. But there are two endings to the game. You can destroy Elpis, or you can release Elpis. Destroying Elpis will cause Leon to die, and Grace is able to leave, and that's the end of the game. Releasing Elpis will cause you to find out that Elpis is an antiviral. Zeno injects himself with it. Zeno loses his abilities, and then Grace injects Leon. Victor Gideon cuts Zeno's head off, and then they all fall down again. Can't stay on this fucking platform for very long, apparently. Leon fights Gideon, and Gideon is found out to be a nemesis, which delegates that nemesis is a title of a bioweapon, not so much a singular entity. So, Leon fights the nemesis, and he obviously defeats him, and he shoots off each one of the tentacles. He pulls the trigger on the Requiem, killing Gideon for good. They walk to through the thing, and he checks on Grace, makes sure Grace is alright. He tells Sherry that there's a cure. There's a cure on the way. Oh, also, I also forgot to mention, Chris Redfield is mentioned. In fact, he is the reason why Leon and Grace get rescued in the good ending. But, I digress. So, Leon's walking. He takes his gloves off, or if you're wearing the film noir, he just walks. And if you pay attention to his finger, he has a ring on his finger, which means Leon canonically is married in the series. We just don't know to who. There's a lot of speculation going on. There's also confirmed DLC, so we might be getting an answer with that, but I digress. But, yeah, pretty much the basic synopsis of Resident Evil Requiem. So, rating and final thoughts. I would give this game a 9 out of 10. It is not getting a full 10 out of 10, only because the game does have a lack of content, which is unfortunate because this game is amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed my 11-hour playthrough. I currently am on my second playthrough, but I've taken a break because Black Ops 7 and all that good shit. But I can safely say that I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this game. So 9 out of 10 is what this game is getting. My final thoughts. Well, like I said, this game series holds a very special place in my heart. I know a little less about it than I do Zombies, Call of Duty Zombies, but I have played my fair share of Resident Evil. I remember playing the OG Resident Evil 4 on the PS2. Superior console, might I add. And then I've played Resident Evil 5. Fucking Sheva. If you didn't have friends. I played Resident Evil 6, which we won't talk about that abomination until I review it. I've played Resident Evil 7. A little scary, but I mean, there are parts that are fucking terrifying. But it's not as scary as people make it out to be. Resident Evil 8, Lady D, Dami Mommy. all I gotta say on the matter. And RE9, I've played that. I've also played Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, and Resident Evil 4 Remake. So I have all those. The only games I don't have is the Resident Evil 1 Remastered, or is it a remake? I think it's a remake. I think it's either a remake or a HD remaster. Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 0, Revelations 1 and 2. So, once I can get my hands on those, I will definitely be playing them and doing reviews on every Resident Evil. But, as always, I hope that you are good people, and you all stay healthy and stay sane. As always, peace the fuck out.